everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bees Buzz with Stevie D. I'm your host, and my co-host, G. Hikes, will be right back at you to sum up last week's hockey games with the Bruins. Stay tuned. Go Bees. We're back, everyone. My co-host, G. Hikes, with the summary of last week's game. How you been, G. Hikes?
Pretty good there, Stevie. And, gee, what a nice week it was for hockey. The Bruins played a couple of games where they fell behind and then woke up and came back. They played the Florida Panthers on Tuesday. And I'll tell you what, that song on the radio there, I don't know how old it is now, but I think they should change the lyrics to "This Brad Marchand is on fire."
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he certainly is. And, you know, the Bruins have David Krejci out. They've got Chara out, Kevin Miller, Torrey Krug. But, yeah.
I'm reading here, Krug practiced.
Yes, he did practice along with Miller. They're both skating.
Yep.
But anyways, now they've won at this time they've won 3 in a row, and a lot of the reason of their success has to be attributed to Brad Marchand, and he scored with 1:33 left in the overtime Tuesday to give the Bruins the 2-1 win against the Florida Panthers at the TD, or should I say, new look Florida Panthers. They looked a lot better. Marchand, he had 1 goal and 3 points in his first 11 games. Now he's had 4 goals and 6 points in his last 3 games after he had 2 points against the Panthers. And no player likes their production to resemble a roller coaster, but that's what Brad has been talking about. And he said, you know what, you just got to try to ride the waves. You know, you're going to have your ups and downs, but you hope that you can get it going at some point just to stay on an even keel base. And that's just what he's done so far, Stevie.
Yeah, well, what have I been saying, and you've been agreeing, is that the guy could play hockey. He could be one of your top 5 players in this league if he plays hockey. Never mind the cheap, dirty crap.
Right.
You know, it's good to get under their skin, but this guy is a talented hockey player. He's in the mix. He can skate. He can handle the puck. And keep it going, Brad.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, and I totally agree with you there because you know what, he's doing just enough just to get a little bit under the player's skin, but he's drawing the line, and he's not taking all these stupid penalties he was taking earlier in the season, and he's just concentrating more on being an effective player.
Right.
And
he's drawing penalties.
Yeah, and he's drawing penalties, exactly. You
Right.
know? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he took the referees out drinking during the summer or whatever to become buddies with them or something.
Well, I know the refs drink, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, right, exactly. But anyways, after the Bruins in overtime, after they gained possession at center ice of the puck, Dougie Hamilton hit Marchand with a pass just outside the Florida blue line. And then Marchand, he gained the zone, and he actually deked out Panther defenseman Dylan Olsen near the hash marks before he beat goaltender Roberto Luongo up high.
Luongo played a great game.
Yeah, he did, though. He did.
One of the best I've seen him play against the Bruins.
Yep, exactly. And Claude Julien, he commented after the game. He goes, I still think that Bruins can play better, he said. But, you get Bergeron. He's been playing well, but he really hasn't come on yet. But anyways, with one guy being really hot as Brad Marchand, they're still riding pretty well off of that, and it helped them win the game. Bruins goaltender Tuukka Rask, he stopped 18 and 19 shots. So the Bruins have actually won 9 in a row now against Florida, and 7 straight against the Panthers at the TD Garden dating back to December 11th, 2011. The Panthers, who are now 4-2-4, they haven't lost a road game in regulation right now. They're actually 2-0-4. Kind of an odd configuration and not losing, but Luongo finished with 23 saves on 25 shots, and Jussi Jokinen, he scored for the Panthers as well. And the Panthers actually came in. They were 4-0-3 in its last 7 games, and their past 4 games, they've been 2-1 scores, and they've won twice.
I think you could contribute a lot of Florida's on-the-road success to the fact that people are there.
Yeah.
The stands are the drawing people on the road, but the team's not drawing people in their own stadium.
No, and it's a shame. A couple of years ago, me and my son and my wife, we actually took a road trip. We flew down to Florida, and we went to see the Panthers play and then the Lightning play. It was like we had like a day travel time or whatever. But we were talking to one of the ushers in Florida, right? It's a beautiful facility.
Right.
And, so we were looking at the crowd that was going to come, and he said, he goes, the only thing that kind of saves us is, he goes, there's a lot of New Englanders down here. He said, but you know what? He said, when the East Coast teams come down, there's a lot of people that come down and watch the games. Not so much with the other teams, but he told us, he said, when the Montreal Canadiens come to play, he said, 95% of the fans are Montreal Canadiens and 5% are Florida Panther fans. You know? But, and it's too bad, too, because, Dale Talon has done a great job with this team.
Yep.
But, in going forward, I know they keep on talking about, putting in an expansion team either in Quebec or one in Seattle or whatever. Before that they start doing that stuff, I think they've got to take a long look at this Panther team. I mean, with the talent that it's getting, and like I said, Dale Talon, he was the one that actually did the job with the Chicago Blackhawks to help them win the cup and get their organization going, even though they let him go beforehand. I think a lot of it had to do with the salary cap issues. But
Definitely.
But I could see them definitely moving that team somewhere else. So, I mean, all I can say is Panther fans, wake up and start going to some of their games.
Yeah, support the team, or you're going to lose it.
Yeah, exactly. And in the game, it took the Bruins 6 minutes and 25 seconds to land their first shot on goal in the second period, but they eventually answered the Panthers' goal. That's when Jokinen scored a one-timer from Brad Boyce, the former Bruin Brad Boyce, what you going to do when the Panthers come for you? But anyways, So then the Bruins seemed to wake up, and then Marchand grabbed the puck and fed Bergeron at the left dot, and Bergeron's turnaround slap shot beat Luongo up high at 7:20. That seems to be the theme for Luongo, at least for the Bruins,
Yeah, they love going there.
Shoot them up high, But, Marchand also commented, he said that the Bruins played with a lot more confidence than they had in the past few games, and they seemed to make the plays when they needed to make them. And he said that's one of the things they weren't doing very well early on, and some of the games they got away with it, but some of the games they didn't get away with it.
Right, exactly, because the sloppiness is what it results, and there is a lot of sloppy play there. But when they click, they click, Go to that net, make things happen.
Right, exactly. And
Brad Boyce.
Yeah, Brad Boyce. Yeah, and the Bruins showed a video tribute to forward Sean Thornton, who, is now with the Panthers after 7 seasons in Boston. And he also got a nice standing ovation, too, during the second TV timeout. And he said he was pretty touched by that. He said it's nice to get a standing ovation in a visiting area that's special to him. The only disappointment that Sean had was that he didn't score a goal.
Right. Unfortunately, we didn't take a good enough lead to let him get one.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. If it was like maybe 5 or 6 to 0 or 6-1, maybe we could have let him have a goal. But
yeah. But he there was no fights obviously, and you didn't want to see that because they still love him here. Is it just me or the Bruins? Boston fans in general just have a great,
respect for former players who come back.
Well, yeah, and even like Derek Jeter's in the
with the coming into Fenway Park for the last time.
Who was it for the Yankees last year? Mario
Rivera.
Yeah. Maybe it happens in every stadium. I don't know. But, geez, it just seems like maybe because we're homies, it happens here more often. I don't know.
Well, let's put it this way. It seems to me like that no matter what the situation is, usually a guy that played for the Bruins, he'll come back, and if he played well for them, no matter what the circumstances was why he left, he'll get a standing ovation, whereas...
Like a Hal Gill won't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe not. But, like, at Fenway, you remember, like, when Johnny Damon came back and he got booed and stuff like that. I mean, basically what it came down to was the Yankees, even though the Red Sox offer was a little bit better, the Yankees actually gave him more years, and that's what he was looking for, So,
yeah, there was a split decision on him with that.
It was kind of tough, what I mean, but yeah, the Fenway fans are tough, no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
Not that the Bruins fans aren't, but I think that it's a little different. It's a different sport. I mean, you see these guys, taking stitches and really, taking stitches coming back in. Whereas, like, I mean, if you're watching a baseball game and a guy gets racked out in center field or whatever, I mean,
he's out for a week.
He's out for a week or maybe a month. I mean, hockey players, it's just a different breed.
Absolutely.
But anyways, yeah, the Bergeron line, they played really strong in this game, where the other lines were kind of sluggish most of the night. One thing that's a little bothersome again was Miljan Lucic. He was tagged with 4 giveaways on the on the score sheet.
That's nothing new.
No.
Well, 4 is awful lot, but I think they're noticing them now.
Yeah, right. One thing that was kind of disturbing was that the refs, they missed a high stick late in the third period when our old buddy there, Scotty Upshall, he caught Louis Erickson in the face. And, and alluding to Thursday's game, too, okay? The refs, they blow the whistle twice when the puck was still loose, and the Bruins put the puck in the net. I mean, even, Claude Julien, who really he'll criticize the referees during the game, but after the game, even in the press conference, he said, well, for that to happen twice in a game is, does not usually happen.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, exactly. So I know, Steve, we have been talking about the referees all year. And
I don't know what's going on this year with the officiating, but I think the NHL needs to take a look into it because it's atrocious. They just... like I think I was asking you, I think the 90s is when they inserted a second referee, which I sort of was against, but I agreed they need it because too much was missed and the game was picking up and getting faster. But it doesn't seem like it's made a difference all of a sudden. You've got 2 referees on the ice, and they still can't get it right. I don't know if they're depending on the replay too much or what. But like you say, you had the high stick against Erickson. Then you had the next game in Edmonton, I think it was, the high stick on Marchand. He whacked Marchand across the side of the face and the shoulder right in front of an official. It's like, what are you watching? Why isn't that a penalty? In other games around the league that I've been watching, there's been high sticks. That whole week, last week, was terrible around the whole league.
Yeah.
And I haven't read anything about it. I don't know why no one's talking about it. But the officials have to sit and have a meeting and figure out what they're doing out there, because the players are getting a little frustrated at the inconsistency, that's for sure.
Right. And, I know that they've also talked about the possibility of giving the linesmen the abilities to call penalties, but they've always talked about it, but it's never happened. But, and I think that maybe they're afraid that there might be too many penalties called. But, at the same time, though, if a linesman sees something as flagrant as as the Erickson Scotty Upshall thing, I think that he should have the capabilities to call that. He should be able to blow the whistle at the correct time.
Right.
And he should be able to call that.
Right. Because I don't want it to the point where the linesman is
more concentrated.
Distracted.
Yeah,
right.
Where he's more concentrated on looking for penalties
right.
and less
because the linesmen haven't
right.
been doing too great either.
Yeah,
I've
right.
never seen so many missed offsides and icings and stuff as I have these past seasons. But you're right. If it's a blatant foul right in front of the linesman, the only reason he doesn't call them is he's not allowed to, and he should have that ability. Like
right.
you say, if right in front of him, if someone takes a stick and jabs it in someone's neck, and he sees it, call it.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, exactly. If it was in real life, he would have been arrested.
Right.
Assault and battery.
In Montreal, you will be.
Yeah, in Montreal, you will be. Yeah.
You'll be. They'll call the cops on you. Don't do it. Don't do it up there. They're watching you. Brad boys.
Yeah, what you gonna do? Yeah,
When they come for you.
yeah. Or as Jackie Gleason said to Smokey and the Bandit, you can think about it, but don't you do it.
That's right. But
Yeah.
so hopefully the officiating gets picked up, and every year it's a little shaky because of rule changes too. But boy, I hate picking on refs because it's not their fault when players lose games, but sometimes when an outcome comes down to a call, it's crucial, and the refs have to be called on it.
Right, exactly. Well, like in this game, how many times do you ever see a team that gets two goals called back and
Absolutely.
still ends up winning the game somehow?
I know. I mean, not one but two.
Right. So the referees, maybe they motivated the Bruins a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
they sure did,
very
because
possible.
they were playing a sloppy period.
Right.
And they came out in that third period sloppy, and then after that, all of a sudden, boom, it changed.
Right. One thing I will say in the referees' defense, at least this year, because now, like we talked about this before we went on the air there with our production technician Ronnie Cross, we talked about the fact where all the goals now are reviewed. And it's a much more simpler process than the NFL and the touchdowns. But anyways, so now the referees are able to concentrate more on goaltender interference and penalties in front of the net, and they don't have to worry so much about seeing the puck go over the line, because if there's any questions that they're going to be backed up by the camera. So for once this year, the focus is on that. So I have seen a little bit of improvement on that. So at least that's one thing that's with the replay that's been helping them out a little bit. But like you said, there's still room for a lot more improvement.
Well, it's definitely the hardest sport to officiate.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking for sticks flying, and I mean, and the refs are getting decked this year.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of issues already with refs getting knocked off the boards and onto the ice, and sticks into their head and pucks. And
yeah, I've seen them skate over to the training to the home team's trainer on quite a few occasions so far.
My friend's cousin Andy McGelman is a linesman, and I mean, you could make a highlight film of this poor kid. Good thing he's a tough little bugger, because he gets decked out there. So they earn their money, and you hate to pick on them, but like anything else, they have a job to do. Do it.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
What are we moving on to, the Edmonton game?
Let's move on to the Edmonton game. I mean, the Bruins, they still haven't been able to come up with a full 60-minute effort of hockey, but so far, they during this streak now, they've won 4 in a row. They seem to be showing up just at the right time to win the games. Carl Soderberg and Dougie Hamilton scored power play goals a minute 9 apart in the third period, and the Bruins rallied from a 1-goal down deficit to defeat the Edmonton Oilers 5-2 at the TD Garden.
Soderberg's stepping it up too. He's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much most of the season he's been one of their more effective players.
Yeah,
Because even when he's not scoring, he's been effective in other areas. I mean, out muscling a guy or digging for the puck or playing the body.
Right. Yeah, very consistent.
Yeah. And the Bruins, they haven't lost to Edmonton since October 17th of 2000, 13 games, and they have not lost to the Oilers here in 10 games, 9-0 with 1 tie. Since November 7th, 1996, the Bruins scored 3 goals in a span of 2 minutes and 34 seconds to go from trailing 2-1 to just basically leading 4-2 and kind of like changing the tide very quickly.
Yes, 3 goals in 2 minutes and 50 seconds or something, a goal a minute.
Right, exactly. And like Coach Claude Julien said after the game, he goes, well, I can't say we had their number tonight, he said, but they gave us a real tough game. He said, I thought, if anything, that they're playing a lot better defensively. They still have a lot of speed, and they still have a lot of skill. They're becoming a little bit tougher to score goals against. But I think here that one of the reasons why the game ended up that it did was because Edmonton, first of all, their biggest star and probably their best player, Taylor Hall, he's out for 2 to 4 weeks. And when this game got close again after the Bruins tied it, they decided to open things up. And when they opened it up, they left an awful lot behind on the defensive end, and that's where the Bruins just came in and they just capitalized and went ahead, like I said, with those 3 quick goals.
Right.
At Dougie Hamilton, he had 2 assists. Louis Erickson had 1 goal and 1 assist for the Bruins, who've won 4 in a row now. They're at 9-6-0, and they're tied for second in the division. So that's a good thing. Tuukka Rask, he stopped 24 26 shots, and Miljan Lucic didn't let us down there. He's always been the king of empty net goals. He scored an empty net goal at the very, very end.
He's getting there. He's getting there.
Yeah.
But I think he needs to be. Is he still on the first line? Yeesh.
Well, they've been moving the lines around so much. I believe that he is, but they've been moving everybody around so much.
It's hard to tell.
Like right now, you really can't call the first line, especially too now. Now, Krejci did play Thursday, but now I was reading again that they said that his injury is bothering again. So
they need to rest him.
We'll see. Yeah, exactly.
They need to stop rushing him back.
Yeah. Right now, I think they've got just enough depth right now where they should try to get him better, especially too where they seem to be a little bit on a roll here. But now Edmonton's penalty kill had been 9 for 9 over the past 4 games before the Bruins scored twice in 4 tries. So it's a good thing for the Bees too. And the Bruins, they went ahead 3-2 on Soderberg's goal. He scored the one-timer from his knees from between the circles at 12:29 of the third period. And Patrice Bergeron, he gained the zone and deked around Oiler defenseman Nikita Nikitin at the right dot. And then Bergeron passed to Soderberg while getting tripped by Nikitin, whose stick got caught up in Bergeron's pants. And then Nikitin was called with a penalty.
Right.
And then, of course, the Bruins scored again. Hamilton put it in at 13:38 for the 4-2 lead. But Arcabella, he actually broke the 1-1 tie, which woke up the Bruins at 1:44 of the third period with a goal from the right hash mark. What happened was Tuukka was trying to clear the puck out. He was trying to pass it to somebody who I wasn't there. And then Yakupov, he shot it. Tuukka made the save. And then Arcabella, he was there to bang it in. But then Erickson tied the game up with a snapshot on the left side at 11:04 after Hamilton's pass went by driving Chris Kelly and landed on Erickson's stick. And the Bruins tied the score 1-1 when forward Riley Smith skated from the red line to the top of the right circle with the puck and beat Scrivens with a wrist shot high to the glove side at 18:45. Yeah, he was due. And what a shot. He'd gone 9 games without a goal.
Yeah, he was definitely due.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the Bruins had 32 shots on Ben Scrivens. The Oilers had 26 shots on Tuukka. Andrew Ferentz, old friend of the Bruins, he wasn't able to play because he's been suspended, so he was watching the game up from the 9th floor. And like I said, they were also without Taylor Hall, one of their best players, out 2 to 4 weeks with a knee injury. And then also, too, the Bruins lost another defenseman. They lost David Warsofsky 2 to 3 weeks with a groin pull. You know what, Steve? We were talking about this off the air, and I'd like to talk a little bit about this, that how the Bruins and the Patriots this season have had so much in common.
Right.
First of all, the way that both of the teams are run is a lot in common, the way that both teams are operated. Okay.
Yes, the management.
Right. So now the Bruins, the Pats started off the season where right at the end of training and the exhibition games, they traded Logan Mankins, who's on the offensive line. Okay, so he's gone. First 2 games, the Patriots are having all kinds of issues. Brady's getting sacked, and it's like, where's your Logan Mankins now?
Yeah.
Bruins, Johnny Boychuk. They trade him because of the salary cap issues right at the very end of the exhibition season. Okay, Bruins start off the season sluggish. The defense isn't looking that good. And it's like, where's your Johnny Boychuk now? Both teams had slow starts. The D's giving up a lot of goals.
Right.
Brady's sacked. Then the Patriots, they lose Mayo, Jones, and Ridley. The Bruins lose Chara, Miller, and Krug. But, others have
They're winning.
Yeah, that's right. Others have stepped up. They've made adjustments, and now the Bruins are in second place at 18 points with 9-6-0. With 18 points. I do like that new overtime system because
yes,
I'm not a big fan of the shootouts. Never have been.
No.
I like to see it, finish during an actual playing time when people are out on the ice.
And it's making a difference.
Exactly. And of course, the Patriots, they've turned it around, and now they're the best team in the NFL. So both teams, they because of the systems that are in place.
It's our show, too.
Exactly. Yeah, our show, too.
It's definitely the comedy,
Especially, too, we usually have it on Sundays.
Yeah, yes. And the Lord's Day, yes. And my negativity just has this overwhelming effect. The players hear me when I'm yelling and bitching on Facebook.
But anyways, both teams, they've I think because of the Belichick and Julian systems, they've learned how to survive with adversity.
Yeah, they're playing into Julian's system now, and hey, when it works, I'm all for it.
Right.
It's just there's too much overemphasis on defense is what drives me crazy.
Right.
And not just me, a lot of Bruins fans.
Yeah.
Score goals, but play defense.
Right.
But right now, they're clicking.
Yep. Yeah. Well, talking about Julian, I know last week we just mentioned that he signed the 3-year contract extension that's going to pay him an average of $2.5 million per year, and that's the second most in the NHL, only behind Chicago Blackhawks' Joel Quenneville. And over the past 7 years plus, Julian, being the Bees coach, he's developed a mindset of discipline and hard work. And, and I think that's been keeping them competitive, even when they seem like that there wasn't a lot of talent there or they had guys injured. So now the Bruins, they're 5-1-0 in games without Chara. Who would have thunk that?
Right.
I mean, that seems to wake them up. Julian says that the biggest thing is just during these situations is to survive. So, so far they've been doing that. The Bruins, they've had injuries, but they've been able to fall back on Claude's foundation, discipline, and hard work. New guys can grow and will continue to improve. And then once the injured players get back, it should be a positive. It should be two positives, actually. Now, the Bruins, they recently brought up David Warsofsky, Zach Trotman, and Joe Morrow, okay? Now, these guys, if you notice, it didn't take them too long to fill in. And that's quickly they did it because the communication between Claude Julien and the Providence Bruins coach, Bruce Cassidy, both teams pretty much play the same styles.
Right.
The styles aren't that different at all. Some teams, it's a little bit more different as far as their farm clubs go. So these guys, that's why they could come up and they could fill in.
Yeah, they adapt.
Exactly. We're still looking for that 60-minute effort. But
no, that's been missing.
Right, exactly. But the whole thing is, the bottom line is, Claude's been coaching for 8 years now, and unlike other organizations and other teams, the Bruins have not tuned him out.
No, and the other thing is like you say, with all these young kids and rookies coming in, the system's similar, but they're still, adapting to the NHL style of play. And you're going to get that sloppiness. You're going to get that miscommunication here and there. It's when the veterans are making the mistakes that upsets me. I mean, I expect Olszewski to make a dumb play.
Sure.
But, like I say, the Lucha giveaways, they just aren't going to stop, I guess. This is what we're going to get from here on in. Just doesn't seem like it's going to end, But they got to get that full 60 back. But like we talked about before, they do have that opportunity, these rookies, and they were saying it on in between periods, that this is a good time for the kids to step up. And it is. It's anybody's chance to make the NHL on the Bruins right now.
Yep. No, this is true.
And that's what they should be doing.
Yep. Oh, hey, Stevie, how about we take a little peek on what's going down on the farm?
Okay,
We're
sure.
talking about that. Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yes.
And the Providence Bruins remember, too. And our top draft pick, David Pastrnak, he didn't end up going back to junior hockey because it's a little bit different in Switzerland. If he came out of the juniors in Canada, he would have to go back. He couldn't play in the AHL. But where he's from Switzerland, it's a little bit different. But anyways, he was named the American Hockey League's Rookie of the Month for October. And right now, he's actually the youngest player in the AHL. But anyways, Pastrnak, he tallied 9 points, 2 goals, 7 assists in 7 games for the Providence Bruins, and including November, Pasternak has posted 10 points, 3 goals, and 7 assists, the most amongst rookies. He also leads Providence in scoring, 2 points ahead of forward Alexander Kolkochev. Pasternak is scoring at a 50% increase this year over last year in the Swedish second division. His assists are up 75% so far. And Pasternak's scoring has helped the Providence Bruins sit atop the Atlantic Division standing with a 6-2-1 record with 13 points. So, and that's saying something too for the Providence Bruins and the depth in the organization, where the Bruins have taken players up and down, and they've still managed to play very well. And they're in first place.
Right, and when they're not playing up here, they're going down there and tearing it up.
Right,
and we can't rush Pasternak like we did.
No.
Sagan and Thornton. He has a chance to develop. Take your time and develop him.
Right. I mean, if he continues this dominance of the AHL,
then he'll be up.
That eventually he'll be up.
Right.
But I mean, if he goes through peaks and valleys, then like you said, Steve, I agree with you. It's best off maybe to leave him alone until if something happens where the injury bug just gets so bad. But hopefully that won't happen. And as far as the goaltending goes down there, Jeremy Smith, who's one of the Providence Bruins goalies, he's played in 4 games so far, and he's got a 1.26 goals against average. And Malcolm Subban, PK's brother,
he's the starter, right?
He's the starter.
Yeah.
He's played in 6 games, and his goals against average is 1.81. So far, both goalies have been playing very, very well.
Very good.
And like I said, they sit on top of the Atlantic Division in the Eastern Conference of the AHL now, 6-2-1 with 13 points. They've scored 26 goals for and 15 against. That's what we like, being very stingy on the giving up the goals.
Right.
So, and they've got a streak right now of 5-0-1.
Puck control.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So
we want to move on to the schedule of this week.
Yeah, let's do that.
Before we get going, Hank, I got to do my Stevie D bitch of the week. And I've been complaining about the back-to-back games. And here's a perfect example. Now, last week they played 2 games, not a game over the weekend. And, they played Jersey Monday, Toronto, Montreal back-to-back. And then I think it's the Hurricanes on Saturday. But, again, back-to-back games next week. For what? They could have played a game Saturday night and eliminated that. I just don't get it. But here's something I've been looking at. The NHL definitely wants the Canadiens to beat the Bruins this year. As for the second time in each month, the Bruins play the Canadiens in Montreal, back-to-back away games. Last month it was against Detroit, then Montreal. This week it's Toronto and Montreal. Jump ahead the following week. They have a Friday night game, and then they come home and play Montreal on a Saturday. You jump ahead in the schedule. It happens again. It happens in, I think it's February.
Yeah, it's 3 times. 3 of the 4 times that the Bruins play them. Right.
Oh, February, it's a Saturday home game against the Islanders and a Sunday home game against the Canadiens. Now, I did some research. One of the games is obviously this one, because of Saturday night hockey. The Canadiens will play Saturday night, then come to Boston. So that's an even thing, and the Bruins have an advantage on travel. However, all these other games, I just don't understand why the scheduling, every game against Montreal is a back-to-back game, and it's on Montreal ice.
Yeah.
It's not fair. I don't want to be, that ain't fair, but it isn't. You can't play hockey 2 games in a row. I'm sorry. It's not good. You're going to end up with injuries. But the players, apparently want it. So I'm done bitching.
Yeah. It's like I said before, it's just kind of crazy scheduling. I guess I could see if they were taking off the 2 weeks to play in the Olympics and stuff like that, but they're not.
No, they're not. It's like I say, 2 games last week.
Right.
And you got to cram 4 games into a week, and 2 of them are back-to-back, obviously. Again, unacceptable. But it's great for the fans. I'm going to enjoy sitting on my couch and watching the Bruins, but we're going to have a lot to talk about next week.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We will.
Show 7 is going to be a busy one.
Yeah.
All right.
Certainly
Speaking of that.
Well, let's go tomorrow. on the 10th, the Bruins will be playing the New Jersey, the Devils. I don't know if anybody watch Seinfeld. Devils. You got to support the team.
Yes, Devils.
Yeah. But anyways, right now they're tied for third in the Metropolitan Division. In 14 games, they have 6 wins, 6 losses, 2 overtime games. They have 14 points. They have 38 goals for and 45 against. Just remember this year, no more Martin Brodeur,
no.
the all-time shutout king. He's been replaced by Marblehead's own Corey Schneider, and so far he's been okay.
Yep.
His record is 6-4, and he's got a save percentage of .910. Goals against average, a little high right now, 2.75. Who else? They have Scott Clemenson is also their backup goalie, too. He hasn't seen the action yet. Actually, he has played in 2 games, but he doesn't have any record. He must have come in to relieve. And they have old friend Jaromir Jagr, who's actually tied for their leading scoring.
Yep.
There he is at the age of, how old is he now? What, 43?
Oh, yeah.
44, I think he's 43. But anyways, in 13 games, he's got 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points with a plus-minus ratio of -1, which actually isn't bad for him. 10 penalty minutes.
Wow.
He's becoming a tough guy there.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
Then we also have old friend Michael Ryder. He's played in 13 games, and he has 4 goals, 5 assists with 9 points, and he's actually a +3 with 4 penalty minutes. You know, you've also got Adam Henrique. He's got 4 goals and 5 assists for 9 points. Damon Severson, he's 4 goals, 4 assists for 8 points. Patrick Elias, he's got 1 goal and 6 assists for 7 points. Mike Camilleri, remember he used to play for the Canadians?
Yep.
He's got 5 goals and 2 assists for 7 points. And Marek Zidlicki, I love pronouncing that name.
Zidlicki.
3 goals, 4 assists with 7 points. So they've got some guys who can create some offense there.
Well, they haven't seen him this year yet,
right.
So it could be a great hockey game, especially the Bruins coming off a 3 days rest, and with no travel. Sometimes that makes me nervous.
Right, exactly. And also, too, the Bruins are also going to do some honoring for Veterans Day coming up on the 11th,
yes.
too. So, watch the game if you're going to it. I know that they'll do some tributes. I know that every game they always pay honor to a tribute. And by the way, Steve, I want to pay honor to you, being a veteran that you are.
Thank you, sir.
For helping serve our country.
Yes,
thank you
very much.
And thank you, all you veterans
and all
out
the
there.
veterans out there.
Enjoy your Veterans Day.
And I'm glad they bringing some of the boys home, and they got that guy out of Mexico, that Marine.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yep. So the Bruins move on, as we say, part of the back-to-back here on the 12th on a Wednesday. They play they go to Toronto to play the Maple Leafs.
8 o'clock start.
Yep. Right now, the Maple Leafs are 6th place in the Atlantic Division. In 13 games, they're 6-5-2 with 14 points. 37 goals for and 35 against. Okay, and the last time at the Air Canada Center, the Bruins really had their first and probably only big blowout game of the season. It was tight early, and then they just embarrassed the Leafs in front of their own fans. So I'm expecting, Steve, that I think Phil Kessel and company, I think they're going to be a little bit more competitive in this one. And
unfortunately, because they have the Canadians the next night.
Right, exactly. But yet, you know what? When you think about it, though, okay, that was the first game the Bruins played without Chara.
Right.
You would have thought that, they would have looked at something and said, hey, you know what? These guys are kind of down,
Right.
But they didn't. So far in this season, Phil Kessel off to his usual good start. He's in 13 games. He's got 7 goals, 11 assists for 18 points, and he's a +3.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tyler Bozak, he's played in 13 games, 5 goals, 7 assists with 12 points. He's a -2. Then you've got James Van Riemsdyk. He's 5 goals, 4 assists for 9 points. Daniel Winnick, he's got 1 goal and 6 assists for 7 points. And Leo Komarov, he's 0 goals and 7 assists for 7 points. So they've got some talent there. They get Dion Phaneuf as their captain and defenseman, 1 goal and 4 assists with 5 points, 29 penalty minutes. Cody Franzen.
Enough of enough.
Yeah, exactly. Nazem Kadri, David Clarkson, Jeffrey Lupo. They've got some talent there, and I don't know. I mean, my feeling about them is if they can't turn it around very soon, I think that Randy Carlisle is going to be out,
Yeah.
and I think I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see somebody like Dan Balston would come in to coach them,
Right.
because it just, I don't know. I mean, how long are they going to put up with this
No.
mediocre hockey?
No, it's again, it's funny you talk about similarities between the teams, the Bruins and the Patriots. They seem to be, they don't just beat teams, they destroy them. It's like when the Pats beat St. Louis in the Super Bowl. That was the end of them. They haven't recovered since, you know. And the Bruins with the Vancouver Canucks, same
Right,
thing.
right.
And Toronto looked like one of the premier teams in the playoffs a couple of years ago. It looked like they were going to maybe go on and win the cup, and after they beat the Bruins in Game 7, and the Bruins turned around and scored 3 goals.
Yeah,
And it's like the Canadians, Maple Leafs haven't recovered from that.
They really haven't recovered from that. No,
Yeah.
when the Bruins scored those 3 goals in the 10-minute span and then won the game in overtime, you're right, Steve. They have not recovered.
Yeah, it's just it's a funny thing how that happens. It must play on your psyche, but yeah, I don't think they're going to put up with Carlisle too much longer on that.
No, exactly. And, in Balsma, he's still a good coach. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to him in Pittsburgh, I think, had just as much to do with the general manager, and that's why
Yeah,
he's
and
no
Sidney
longer
Crosby.
there. Right, exactly.
Yep.
So, but anyway, so then the next night on the 13th, on a Thursday, the Bruins find themselves at the Bell Center playing the Montreal Canadiens.
Yep.
So far this year, the Canadiens, they're tied with Tampa for first place. In 14 games, they're 9-4-1. They have 19 points, 33 goals for, and 41 against. It's a little bit of a weird numbers as far as in the place that they're in.
Right.
And the first time that they played at the Bell Center, of course, the Bruins, they had the game in their hands and they kind of let it slip away. This is also going to be the first meeting between Milan Lucic and Dale Weiss. Remember how they had their pleasant exchange at the end of last year?
Right, and Weiss didn't play in the last game.
Right, exactly. So we'll see. And so far this year, some of the Canadian stats, players of note, Thomas Plekanec, and PK Subban and Max Pacioretty are all tied with 9 points as far as their goals and assists go. Alex Galchenyuk, he's 4 goals and 4 assists with 8 points, not goals. He wish.
Yeah.
And Andrei Markov, who always seems to be the catalyst on the Canadians' power play. He's another one too. It's like when he's healthy and he plays, he's a real big part of that Canadians' power play. 1 goal, 5 assists with 6 points. And P.A. Parento, he's got no goals, 6 assists and 6 points. So anyway, as far as the goaltending goes, Carey Price, he's played in 11 games so far. He's got 7 wins, 3 losses, and his save percentage is .907, goals against 32, and his goals against average is 2.94. And the backup this year for the Canadians is Dustin Tokarski, and he's played in 4 games. And his record is 2-1, and his goals against average is 2.01 against.
Well, the Canadians are a tough team. Then they're definitely for real this year, and it's going to be a heck of a game. Again, the Bruins will be coming off a tough game against Toronto, so it'd be interesting to see both games on the road, and you'll get that bonding there. I think the Bruins should play a lot of the rookies in this Canadian game, and because they don't have that ghost in their head that's been bugging the Bruins over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they can do. That's for sure.
Yeah, let a couple of clean minds come in there and knock the Canadians around. I'd like to see that.
Right. And then on Saturday, on the 15th, the Bruins are back home to face the Carolina Hurricanes.
Right.
Now, the Hurricanes, they're next to last in the Metropolitan Division. In 12 games so far, they're 4-6-2 with 10 points. And they've scored 28 goals, given up 39. You can tell right away right there that's not a great stat. Eric Stahl, he's back from an injury. But his brother Jordan, he's still been out of action. And this team, after not getting a win in October, they've won their last 3 games in November.
Right.
So some of their top players right now, Yuri Tosley, he's got 6 goals and 2 assists and 8 points, but with a -3. And then you get Riley Nash. He's got 3 goals, 5 assists with 8 points. He's a +1. Chris Terry, he's got 4 goals, 3 assists with 7 points, and he's a 3. Then you got Elias Lindholm. He's 3 goals, 3 assists with 6 points and a -3. And Eric Stahl, 2 goals, 3 assists with 5 points, and he's a -2. Anyway, some of the other players that are on the team that we know of are Sekera, Falk, Zach Boychuk, Jay Harrison, Nathan Gerby, Jay Clement, Tim Gleason, Alexander Semin. So far, he had 9 games. He's got no goals, 2 assists, and 2 points, and he's a -7.
Brody Sutter.
Yeah. Ron Hainsey, Victor Rask, no relation to Tuca.
No.
Brody Sutter.
Zach Boychuk.
Yeah, Zach Boychuk.
And Jeff Skinner, who's a good player.
Yep.
Was he on the Bruins?
No, I don't think he was.
I don't know why Skinner's ringing a bell.
Yeah.
But
And they also had center Brody Sutter, who I think is related to the other Sutters, but he actually, I think, has just been sent down to the minors.
you got a Sutter peanut butter sandwich cookie?
Yeah, the other Sutter peanut butter sandwich cookie.
Yeah.
And anyways, I just wanted to comment, too. I know last week we talked about Gordie Howe and how he had his stroke. Well, I guess Gordie's been improving in his recovery.
Yes.
He continues to show improvement in his fight to recover from the stroke he had October 26th. He's still recovering and rehabilitating in Lubbock, Texas, where his daughter Kathy lives.
Yeah, he's making great progress, I've read.
Yeah, he is. Mark Howe, Gordie's son and a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame, said Wednesday prior to the game between the Red Wings and the Rangers at Madison Square Garden that his father has walked approximately 50 feet with assistance from his son Murray on Tuesday. And then Mark said that last week he could barely even move his right foot.
Right.
He said his right arm is getting better. His speech is improving. He said that they're going to have a speech therapist and a physical therapist working with Gordie, who's now 86. But anyways, what's nice to hear, too, is that his family is just so involved with him, okay? Mark said that he and his brothers, they've devised a schedule for when they will be in Texas to tend to their father. He said that Murray stayed there for a whole week, and Marty's going there on Friday to spend a week. And then the following Saturday, he's going to go there and spend a week. So he said, we're going to see how Dad is at that stage. And he said he strongly believes there's going to be a lot of work to do after that. But the strides that he's made in the last 7-8 days is remarkable. But to kill some of his time, too, I guess that Gordie's been busy. They've set up family videos for him to watch, and he's also watched videos of the Red Wings tribute that they paid to him at the Joe last Friday after all this.
Yeah, great.
But anyways, I just wanted to share, too, speaking of the Detroit Red Wings, on this day, back in 1972, Johnny Busick of the Bruins scored his 1,000th point with a goal in an 8-3 Bruins win over the Detroit Red Wings. And, of course, Johnny Busick actually started his career with the Red Wings. He played 2 seasons before he was actually traded to the Bruins in a trade where the Bruins sent goalie Terry Sawchuk back to
Mr.
Detroit
Zero.
because he was homesick.
Yes.
So,
Homesick goalie brought one of the greatest players to Boston.
Yep.
Speaking of old-time players, I meant to mention about the Canadians. Guy Lapointe had I think they retired his number or something last night in Montreal. They had a ceremony for him. So it's great to remember these old, rusty, tough hockey players that built this game to what it is today.
Yeah. In fact, actually, I think that, Guy actually, if my memory is correct, I think he spent one of his last season or next to last season, I think he spent with the Bruins.
Yes, he did. He did, actually. You're right.
Exactly. I always
and like late 78 or 9 or around then, I think. Yes,
exactly.
I liked him.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you what, I mean, in the 70s, I mean, him and Serge Savard, I mean, those guys were...
Guy Lafleur, Yvon Cournoyer. Great
Bob
team.
Gainey. Those guys were just... those guys were great. Lapointe, and he still holds the Canadiens team record for most goals in a season by a defenseman with 28, and most goals by a rookie defenseman with 15. And in his career, he was on 6 Stanley Cup teams. He registered 572 points in 777 games, which ranks him second amongst defensemen in team history.
Exactly.
So that's that's pretty big. Yeah, and he was always one of these guys. He just went out there and did his job.
Yeah.
Back in the day there. I mean, I remember some of those Canadian teams, especially that 77-78
Yep.
team. That was probably like one of the biggest shutdown teams I
Oh,
had ever seen. I mean, they got a lead, and
unbelievable.
it was like, forget it,
Right.
with that defense that they had.
Gila Point was a Don Ori that scored goals.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
He was a great
Yeah.
defenseman.
Yeah. So.
But no, it's going to be a busy week in Bruins land, that's for sure. And hopefully the biggest thing is they get a couple of wins out of the deal. And I'd like to see 3 out of the 4, if not 4 out of 4. But, we can't win them all, folks. But we got to beat them pesky Canadians anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be the I mean, we got to win all those games. But like you said, I mean, that game on Thursday, I'd really like to see them come out and give it that. They've got to give it that 60-minute effort.
Yes, definitely.
Because that's the only way that you're going to win. And Montreal, they've had 2 losses at home this year already. So I mean, that's kind of early for them to be having 2 losses. So it can happen.
Yes, definitely.
It's just a matter of putting in that effort. And like I said, the last game, if the Bruins had continued the effort that they put in that second period, they would have won that game. But unfortunately, they didn't.
No, they fell asleep at the wheel. But they got a tough schedule, so they better be ready to show up and play some hard-hitting hockey.
Yeah.
All right, G-Hikes, I believe you have a couple of things there that you wanted to bring up to the fans on Backyard Rinks, if you will.
Yeah, it's funny. Before we leave, going off the air here, I sometimes I pick up a copy. In fact, if anybody's ever near a hockey rink, what you should do is swing by in a hockey rink, okay? And they have these magazines. They come out like once a month, and it's the New England Hockey Journal. And it's actually a pretty good magazine because, it's got a lot. It's actually, they usually have some nice articles about the Bruins in there and some good pictures for the kids. And then they'll talk about some of the New England players, or actually all the New England players, and where they're playing right now, whether it be in the NHL or in college or the AHL or whatever. But anyways, they actually had an article in the back here about having companies that come in and they build backyard rinks. I mean, they've got a 48 by 61 here. Let me show you some of the pictures. Let's see if we can make that out on some of the rinks here. There's some of the different rinks that they have that they can build in your backyard. And over here, look at this one right here. This one down here looks like, it looks like that it's a regular size rink.
Absolutely, yes.
And it's also got a refrigeration system that you can buy for it, and the refrigeration system goes for starting at $25,000.
Yeah.
So if you had a wicked lot of money, to spend, it'd be a nice little investment if you could swing it and if you had the room.
Well, I know when I was younger, I was doing my dream of having 11 kids in the big house with the white picket fence. I was going to put a skating rink back there. And when I became a pipe fitter, which refrigeration's part of the business, I was already ahead of the game saying, geez, I'll find an old chiller and have a player guy to build it and put it in a shed, and I'll have the ice at least the whole winter, because it does thaw out around here in the winter, and that's the main thing. But those rinks, they, like you say, they do have them so you can keep the ice fresh all winter long. And if you spend big bucks in the summer, but kids don't want to be skating in the summer anyway, unless it's in a competitive game inside an arena. But I really think it'd be a great thing to do in your backyard.
Yeah.
It's always been something I wanted to do with the full boards and the glass. That'd be awesome.
Right. Yeah, well, I know, growing up, I lived in the suburbs, so, there was always a lot of land, and I was very fortunate in the backyard where I lived at my parents' house. There was a flat 225-foot strip,
Yeah.
and we used to play everything on there. We used to play baseball, softball. We used to play football. We'd play soccer. We'd also play hockey too. I mean, what we did was we were able to, with a little help from Mother Nature and Dad's hose, we were able to freeze part of that over. It was a huge amount, so we didn't do the whole thing. But anyways, it was fun. I mean, it'd be nice to have hockey games in your own backyard, and just to be able to go right in the house afterwards. But we also used to skate at. We used to have frog ponds across the street that we used to have a lot of fun with too. But unfortunately, I actually tried building a couple of rinks for my son. We had one in our backyard that wasn't too big. But it was okay. My son was able to skate on for about a week or so, and then I tried a bigger one over at my parents' house. And unfortunately, with all the time and effort that I spent, I didn't have the money to go out and buy a refrigeration system or even buy these expensive boards. I just built it the old-fashioned way with some 2x8s and some stakes and going out and getting some liners
Poly,
and things
yeah.
like that to put in, and got plenty of water in there, but it just seemed like that it just wouldn't stay cold enough. It just seemed like it was getting to that point where it was just about to freeze, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you get down a warm day and you crack
Right.
on the ice. But anyways, it's hey, if you can afford to do it, or if you have the room to do it, even if you could build a real small one, just enough so that somebody could go out and skate. I imagine that hopefully we'll have a cold winter this year, and you'll be able to enjoy it a little bit, and the kids will be able to enjoy it.
What is the website?
Let me see.
Customice.com or something?
Customicerinks.com.
Yeah,
www. dot.
I've seen them advertised on Facebook and stuff, so you might want to check it out if you're really interested.
Right, exactly. Yep. 5 months of real ice, energy efficient designs, portable packages for seasonal use, permanent sports pads for year round fun, indoors and outdoors. Jeez. Hey, maybe we should get jobs promoting the hockey rinks for
Yeah. Well, they also have one of the links I was seeing. I don't know if this is the same company. They actually have the outdoor rinks that don't require the cold temperature.
Right. Well, these ones right here, I
They're
think.
the synthetic ice that.
Yeah, the synthetic ice. Yeah, and it's funny. I remember when I was a kid. I remember it was Brad Park. When
Yeah.
he was playing for the Rangers, was involved with one of those companies that started the synthetic ice.
The
'Cause
New
I can
England
remember,
Whalers came down one time. They had orange pucks, and I forget where they were. We went and watched them do it, and they were using that ice, and it was in the middle of July.
wow.
They call it artificial ice. And I remember back, that's when indoor rinks were getting popular in Massachusetts. And the argument was that it was artificial ice in the arenas. And, the argument was no, artificial ice is this particular artificial ice. It's artificial frozen ice in the arenas because it's frozen with pipes.
Right.
So that was the big learning curve. Everybody was, this is artificial ice. And it's, no, artificial ice is in the Boston Garden. No, that's artificially frozen ice.
Right. Right. Yeah, there's a difference, But anyways, yeah, and I know that where I lived in Rockland, we didn't. It wasn't until I was like 10 or 11 years old that we actually had a rink in our town. So everything was all skating on, like I said, ponds, anything in your backyard or whatever. But hey, it was still those days were a lot of fun.
You fought for ice time.
Yeah, you certainly did.
I was telling Ronnie that the old oil tank down on Southern Artery they pulled out back in the 60s or 70s. And, of course, anytime there's an oil tank, there's a big mound of dirt around it from where it was set. So you had this big oval round pit. We had to climb up the dirt hill and then down into it, and it flooded perfectly.
Oh.
And
wow.
it was good because the puck, when it went wide, you didn't lose
right,
it.
Right.
It was right there, but it would go into a dirt mound. You had to crawl on your knees and get it. Of course, we were the younger kids, so we were the ones that shagged the puck. But we got to play. It was like a 15 on 15. But it was the best kept secret because you didn't want to tell everybody where the ice was. And then I remember one of my friends, his father's like, those are the oil tanks. And I don't know if you remember when they had the explosion in Charlestown.
Yeah,
the
I
tanks
remember that.
blew up.
Yeah.
And this was before that. And we're like, oh, nothing's going to happen down there. So then they had that explosion like the following summer. And, oh, boy, so that was the end of that. No more skating at the tanks.
Yeah, gee. No.
But it was fun, the good old days.
Yeah, that's
Well,
for
do
sure.
you have anything else today before we wrap it up, G?
No, I think we're pretty much all set. I think we covered everything, and like we said, there's an awful lot of hockey coming up this week. There's going to be 4 games,
Yes,
so make sure you have your TVs on, and we'll be back here, I think, next Sunday to talk about it.
Definitely. So get your beer cold, get your seat, and go Bruins. We'll see you. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Facebook. And,
right. And
I'm also on the YouTube page. Subscribe on us there. Bees Buzz with Stevie D. Here's to you. Happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day, veterans. Thank you very much for serving our country.